the last time I saw this plant, or leaves of this plant actually, before this one was shipped to me, was before I was a YouTuber and before I even owned a camera. And I think it was in San Diego, but it may have been in Los Angeles or somewhere between San Diego and Los Angeles, when I went to a pho restaurant and they gave me a plate of leaves to accompany my pho. And the leaves of this plant were on that plate. And I asked the waitress what it was, and she said it was Vietnamese coriander. And at that point, because at that time I didn't have a phone or a camera, I had this little notebook I carried around with me, and I wrote down Vietnamese coriander, rare Vietnamese herb, in my notebook. So you might have recently, if you watch YouTube videos, have seen a certain YouTuber eating this plant in Thailand or Vietnam. And it is likely that he called it Sawtooth coriander, or another name that I am going to say in a moment, because I have written down all of the names for this plant, including the scientific species name and many common names, on a piece of paper that I have in my pocket. Not because I can't remember them, but because I want you to turn on the English subtitles that are automatically generated by YouTube so you can see what they say in text that I am saying. Hi people, I would like to apologize for looking horrible in this video, because I know I have a horrible looking cut on my forehead, and unlike most female YouTubers, I do not actually own any makeup, so I cannot put a dollop of makeup over this cut right here, and the only band-aids I could find were charcoal infused black ones. So I am filming this video with this cut on my forehead instead of having a black band-aid going kind of like across my nose and up my forehead like this. Just imagine that. I am also filming this video for the third time because the recent lightning storm seems to have fried my phone while it was charging, and I seem to have lost a large amount of video footage. And my cats seem to love the smell of these plants, which isn't surprising because this one is actually known for being quite strong smelling. But I think I'm going to feed my cats some cans of cat food so you can actually see the plants I'm trying to film a video about, not just my cats being all over them, because they're really all over them. Look at this. They're surrounding them, smelling them, rubbing on them. Can you pick your cats up like this? Just like that? Some cats don't like to be picked up. I'm not sure if I can pick up Jason. He used to be really, really opposed to being picked up. Oh, I can pick up Jason now. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi.
What do you have there?
It's this.
Oh, that's a purple mustard leaf, also known as a takana leaf in Japanese. Just don't eat either of these raw because of Mommy's skin reaction. Hi, I'm back, as I also just realized that the American flag that should be hanging behind me is hanging shredded by the windstorm we just had. If I see my boyfriend while I'm recording this video, I will ask him to remove it. Alright people, it's now gone. So, because of the extremely high winds and the lightning storm, after I recorded at least 3 different videos about my new plant that I had to delete, I brought the plant inside because this plant, which is actually a few plants together in one pot, was shipped to me from Southern California. And I'm touching it, which is something I need to be very careful not to do. Because since I have recorded and deleted a few videos about this plant over the course of a few days, two interesting things have happened. The one interesting thing that happened is because I brought it inside and it was getting less sunlight, it started to bolt or flower, which is awesome because I would love to have seeds from this plant so I can grow more of them and give some of them away, which I will talk about in a minute. The other thing I have discovered is, although I am able to eat this plant when it is even just warmed for a few seconds in a broth or cooked for any length of time, I am fine. But I am unable to touch this plant without having a skin reaction. And I mean just barely brushing up against it. And to give you some backstory, the last time I saw this plant, or leaves of this plant actually, before this one was shipped to me, was before I was a YouTuber and before I even owned a camera. And I think it was in San Diego, but it may have been in Los Angeles or somewhere between San Diego and Los Angeles, when I went to a pho restaurant and they gave me a plate of leaves to accompany my pho. And the leaves of this plant were on that plate. And I asked the waitress what it was, and she said it was Vietnamese coriander. And at that point, because at that time I didn't have a phone or a camera, I had this little notebook I carried around with me, and I wrote down Vietnamese coriander, rare Vietnamese herb, in my notebook. So you might have recently, if you watch YouTube videos, have seen a certain YouTuber eating this plant in Thailand or Vietnam. And it is likely that he called it Sawtooth coriander or another name that I am going to say in a moment. Because I have written down all of the names for this plant, including the scientific species name and many common names on a piece of paper that I have in my pocket. Not because I can't remember them, but because I want you to turn on the English subtitles that are automatically generated by YouTube so you can see what they say in text that I am saying. Because people who are hard of hearing or people who are not native English speakers might turn on these text subtitles, and YouTube will very likely misspell one of the names of this plant and type out basically what it sounds like I'm saying, not the way it is actually spelled. So this is Eryngium Foetidum. And foetid means fetid, meaning it smells like rotting stuff, like rotting flesh, which is apparently why my cats were so interested in it. And it is also known as Sawtooth coriander, or Mexican coriander, or Vietnamese coriander, or Culantro, or Culantro, like spelled C-U-L, not C-I-L, like cilantro is spelled. And I might mispronounce this, but in Vietnamese it's called Ngo Gai, with a accent going the opposite way that Spanish accents go, over the O in Ngo. I'm sorry if I mispronounced this, but I have not studied Vietnamese, although I have studied many other languages. And look, one of my cats is coming up here to smell this plant because I'm like moving it around, which is apparently making the smell like go into the air or something. So right here I have all of these names of this plant written down. There they are. Eryngium foetidum, the scientific species name, Culantro or Culantro, depending on how you pronounce your C, Sawtooth coriander, also known as Mexican coriander or Vietnamese coriander, Go Guy, sorry if I mispronounced that, and this is my favorite one, because if you have the subtitles turned on right now, this is pronounced Shadow Benny. And this is what the subtitles probably told you I just said. So I am so excited that my Shadow Benny plant is going to seed, because I am going to take the seeds from this plant and either sprinkle them in the landscaping around our local Vietnamese restaurants that do not serve this with their pho, or go there and give them little pots with little plants and tell them to please plant it in their gardens and then start to serve it with their pho. Isn't that cool? It's going to seed. And if you do not have this plant that I'm not touching, which I shouldn't be touching, it's possible that you might have another Eryngium growing in your garden, because this one over here is labeled Eryngium PLA Blauwcap. And Blauwcap means blue cap or blue top. This is what is commonly called Mexican sea holly. And by this I mean this part of it, because I've got some weeds that are actually not weeds, but they're not this growing in it. So this part of what's in this pod is Eryngium planum. Interestingly, when I bought this, the sign said Eryngium plant blue cap, because the employee thought that PLA was short for plant, not planum, but this is Eryngium planum. These leaves basically taste like these leaves, and they are actually eaten and used as herbal medicine in Mexico. But this cultivar might taste a little different than the one that's a native plant in Mexico, but all Eryngiums, as far as I know, have edible leaves, and they all taste similar to cilantro or coriander leaves. And these aren't spiny, and I've never had a skin reaction from touching them. And because the last time that I saw these leaves and touched them was like almost 20 years ago at a restaurant where I just like ripped a few up and threw them in my soup. I guess I either didn't have a reaction to it at the time, or didn't notice it, or wasn't allergic to it yet, who knows. But I have no idea how the flower from this is going to look. Look at it up close, but I can tell that it is going to look similar to a sea holly flower. And I'm sorry that my sea holly isn't flowering right now, but you can see, like, I guess like the dried seed pods. I'll try to get a picture of this from the internet or something to show you what it looks like when it's flowering. But isn't this cool? I finally have a Sawtooth coriander plant, and I can finally make my own pho with like the herbs they actually use in pho in Vietnam. I also got, well, I also got another rare herb that's used in pho in Vietnam, and I also did not get a third rare herb that's used in pho in Vietnam that was apparently lost in shipping, or who knows, possibly stolen. Basically, I got 2 out of the 3 plants that were supposed to be my Christmas presents. But this is a cool one. And I'm really, really glad I got this. And I'm also really glad that the Etsy seller from Southern California sent me the really spiny variety, because there are some cultivars of this where they have bred out the spines, which is the part of the plant that's probably causing my hands to turn like beet red like this. But I can put it into like warm broth and eat it and have no allergic reaction. It's just astonishing. I can't wait to collect seeds from this, which I will do while wearing gloves, and distribute them to local Vietnamese restaurants and Thai restaurants too. They also use this in Thai cuisine. Isn't that cool that I got it though? Or actually got them. There's like 3 or 4 in this pot, and it needs to be divided. And I'm gonna do that soon. And I'm also gonna divide my Sea Howie Eryngium. Cool, huh? I should do a taste test, like tasting the 2 leaves, but I know I can taste this one raw, and I would not want to taste this one raw, so I'm gonna like maybe like make 2 cups of broth and just soak some chopped leaves for a few minutes in each cup of broth and then taste them, because I don't want to have like an allergic reaction in my throat like what's going on in my hand. Like, look at this. My palm's like turning red, like legitimately. I am now going to end this video. Please like this video, share this video, watch my other videos, and subscribe to my channel. My videos ending is being interrupted by sirens now. I apologize for not being able to make a normal, coherent video, because even when I have myself fully together, there's always something else going on my property or in my neighborhood or in my state. Most recently, earthquakes and lightning, you know? That disturbs my video. Comment on my video too, please. Bye, people.